Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. So it's been a while since I've talked about Pershing Square Tontine. So if you guys need a little reminder, this is Bill Ackman's SPAC, which I'm sure you've heard of SPAC, that term by now. In case you haven't, a SPAC is a special purpose acquisition company. Sometimes it's also called a blank check company and is used to effective a reverse merger IPO. So it's just a company with no operations, and what it does is that it merges with another company that is now private, and then this purpose of doing this merger is to change the ticker and take that company public. So this has been a really popular way to do IPOs, in case you haven't noticed. Now, Pershing Square Tontine is famous because when it first came out back last summer of 2020, it was still to this day, it was back then and still to this day, the largest SPAC in history, coming in at over $4 billion. And I think it ended up growing quite a bit. So it's actually now over $5 billion in cash. So for reference, usually SPACs are like less than a tenth of that. Usually SPACs are like $300 or $400 million. So this SPAC is absolutely huge. Okay, so with this huge cash balance, everyone was wondering what company that Pershing Square was going to merge with. And I've done videos in the past where I've speculated on various company that are targets. So those videos were actually surprisingly controversial, believe it or not. So I got quite a bit of like backlash from a certain small group of people. It wasn't a lot of people, but a small group of people were just like trashing me in the comments, calling me an idiot because I was suggesting some things like restaurant chains, for example, like In-N-Out Burger, Chick-fil-A, or Subway, which I think would have been okay choices. But people were coming at me. They were like, no, you're an idiot. It's going to be fintech. It's going to be whatever. It's going to be blah, 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 right? Well, it turns out that in the end, you were wrong. Granted, I was wrong as well, but I don't think anyone could have predicted what happened. So today we finally got some results and we got some answers. And the answers are, well, confusing. So yeah, let me try to explain this, and oh boy, here we go. So I'm trying to understand this as well. So if I get something wrong, which I very well might, because it's super complex, but if I say something wrong, please don't just murder me down in the comments. Please kindly correct me down in the comments. Okay, so first, Pershing Square Tontine will be taking a 10% stake in Universal Music Group, UMG, which is set to IPO in Q3 of 2021 on the Amsterdam Exchange. And this is not a SPAC merger, as in this is more just a straight up acquisition. So UMG is already set to IPO anyway. So think of this not as a merger IPO, but just a straight up like one company taking a stake in another company. And the valuation that Ackman is paying is about $35 billion in enterprise value and $42 billion in market cap. So he's paying about $4.2 billion out of pocket in cash, which some people are saying is actually quite a good deal because according to CNBC, Goldman Sachs put out a report a month ago with the most recent valuation for UMG putting them at $44 billion. So Ackman is getting a slight discount there. After this deal, you will get distributed shares of UMG if you're a PSTH holder, depending on what you're entitled to. So notice how this deal only used $4.2 billion of PSTH, when in fact I just said that PSTH has over $5 billion, right? Well, you'll be getting roughly 4/5 of the value of your PSTH shares in UMG shares, and the remaining 1/5 will be remaining to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So PSTH will still be here, except the net asset value will be like $4 to $5. I think it's like around $5 per share, 1/5 of what it is now. So yeah, that's what's happening with PSTH and UMG. But wait, there's more though, because with the PSTH holders, they will also get access to a SPARC, which is a special purpose acquisition rights company, which is a new category of company that Ackman essentially just made up. So from what I understand, that is very similar to a SPAC, except that it has no time limit. So recall that for a SPAC, if the company can't find a merger in time, that you just get back the base value or the net asset value, right, the NAV, which is $10 per share usually for other SPACs, but for PSTH is $20 per share. Well, a SPARC is just like a SPAC, except it doesn't have that time limit part, which means that you'll be putting even more trust into Ackman because you're basically tying up your money with Ackman like indefinitely unless you sell, right? So how it works is that for every share of PSTH you own, you'll get rights to buy one share of the new Spark at the net asset value of I believe is also around $20 per share. So basically it's like a really long dated call option. And the Spark will go on to try and find a merger target just like a regular old SPAC. So what does this all mean though? And can I summarize everything I've just said? Because I know I've just thrown a lot at you. So let me try to summarize things, okay? So essentially what is happening is that PSTH holders will get part of their invested money turned into UMG shares, but also kind of get access to this new SPAC, except it's not really a SPAC, it's a Spark. Okay, so I realized that that probably wasn't that helpful right after I said it. So let me try again, okay? I'm assuming what happened was that Ackman couldn't find a good enough target for a SPAC deal that was to his satisfaction, and he was running out of time, which means that he doesn't want to dissolve this SPAC, right? Because that would be embarrassing. So he's essentially trying to turn this SPAC into a regular company, into a regular like investment fund company. But to try and prevent people from getting too pissed, he's also giving the SPAC investors the rights to get access to the new SPAC, which is not really a SPAC, which is a Spark, which has no time limit. Again, as I said. So if you're still confused, don't worry, I am as well. If you made it this far, if you still don't get it, I recommend you watch another person explain it, because I've pulled out all the guns, I've done everything. Yeah, try to watch other people explain it, or try to watch like newscasters explain it. So that is also a really fun activity I've been doing throughout the day today. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to spend the entire this video talking about like the news itself. I do want to spend some time talking about some of my personal opinions on this as well. So I just want to say that I do feel bad for all the brokerages that's going to have to handle all of this. I know that a lot of you use brokerages that don't even support holding like rights and warrants and all this stuff. So one simple way to not have to deal with this is just to sell your PSTH shares and warrants, which is why we saw shares of PSTH crash really hard today. Now for me, I actually sold my PSTH shares a while back before all this news came out. So I made like less than a 10% profit. I made a small profit. I sold because I wanted to raise more money to buy other stocks. So it didn't have anything to do with this deal, obviously, because it was a long time ago. I didn't obviously know anything about this back then. But recently I was actually thinking about buying back into PSTH, but I guess not anymore. Because maybe I'm biased, but I know a lot of you are still in this stock, and I'll just be brutally honest with you guys. I really didn't like this whole deal at all, and I'll tell you why. So first, as I mentioned, I think that this is just an admission from Ackman that he couldn't find a good enough deal that enticed him, so that's why he's doing this. So effectively, he's trying to get rid of this SPAC, and he's trying to find a new way to make a new SPAC, which doesn't have a time limit, so he doesn't run into the same problem as he did this time. So the main issue with Pershing Square Tontine from the beginning was that it was just too big, in my opinion. That's what she said. In my opinion, the SPAC is just too big, right? Because it's $5 billion. And usually when a SPAC merger happens, they acquire a minority stake in a new company that they're trying to like take public, right? So with a minority stake, that means less than 50%, which means that you're effectively looking for something that's at least a $10 billion valuation or above. And there just aren't that many good companies in that range that isn't already public or wants to go public at that price. So the pool of candidates is just very small. And the second issue is an issue from the investor standpoint, so from the holders of the SPAC. And this is an issue that plagues all SPAC holders, not just PSTH, but it's just the fact that you might get stuck with a company that you don't like, right? So for example, with PSTH holders, you're now a stakeholder in UMG, whether you like it or not. And I don't think anyone signed up for this because they're doing a regular IPO, right? So they weren't on the list of any targets. So like there's no way anyone could have predicted this because they weren't like even in consideration on any of the lists as a SPAC target. So now you're a part of a company though that you never thought that you'd be a part of. And I'm not trying to trash UMG. I'm sure they're great, but I don't know. It's just unexpected, right? So I think a lot of people were hoping that Ackman would also get something in fintech, right? Like Stripe or Plaid, which if you don't know, they're both like fintech payment processing and payments like space companies. So yeah, I don't know. It's just lots of emotions, I think, today with this, lots of reactions happening with this announcement, and I just don't know how to think about it. I'm still processing it, to be honest. So if you're a PSTH holder, or even if you're just interested in this whole like ordeal in general, just let me know down in the comments what do you think, whether you like the deal or whether you don't like the deal, because I'm really conflicted, and you know, I'm leaning more towards I don't like this deal, but maybe one of you can change my mind. I don't know. So I'll leave the video here. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you like the series. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, links down below in the description as always. And with that being said, see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.